It sounds quite strange that the countries now bent on destroying each other's existence were once the closest of friends. Yes, we're talking about Iran and Israel. This wasn't just an ordinary friendship. In fact, the leaders of both countries used to meet in secret. They used to exchange gifts and sign secret agreements. Their friendship was so strong that it was often cited as an example. There are many stories, but the most surprising thing is that the very nuclear program being objected to today was actually gifted to Iran by Israel and the United States. But how did this happen? At what point did Iran and Israel become friends? Who were the ones jealous of this friendship? Why were weapons purchased from Israel even during the Ayatollah's regime? And what was the turning point when this deep friendship turned into enmity? Ladies and gentlemen, to understand the roots of this friendship, we need to go back a little in history. We have to go back to when the Middle East looked completely different. Previously, the Ottoman Empire ruled here, which came to an end in 1922 after World War I. Now, Britain was in control and Arab nationalism was on the rise. The Arabs had recently been freed from the Ottoman Empire and they wanted to create their own separate nation. In fact, one reason for the Ottoman Empire's defeat in World War I was that the Arabs had secretly supported the British on the promise that after independence they would be allowed to form their own separate country. But besides the British and the Arabs, there was one power left in the region that had a major issue with Arab nationalism, and that was Iran. At that time, Iran was a powerful country and the people here considered the Arabs to be inferior. The Shah of Iran felt that if all the Arab countries united, they could become a threat to Iran. For one, the Persian Gulf. Iran's hold over the Gulf will become divided because the Arabs had already started calling it the Arabian Gulf instead of the Persian Gulf, and secondly, the majority in Iran are Shia Muslims while the Arabs are Sunni Muslims. Although both are Muslims, if we look at history, there has always been a silent rivalry between the two over who will represent Islam. The Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was afraid that the influence of Sunni Muslims might grow and reach Iran, and that they might take his throne from him. But who knew that the Iran left isolated in the Middle East was about to find an excellent friend? Then came the year 1948, that historic year when, after the United Nations Declaration, the Jewish State of Israel was established. As soon as Israel was formed, the neighboring Arab countries felt that this was an injustice to the Palestinians, so they attacked Israel. This war where it became a threat to Israel's existence, while at the same time, it also became a way for the Shah of Iran to rid himself of the Arabs. In reality, Iran did not have as much of a problem with the state of Israel as it did with the growing influence of the Arab countries. That is, while the Arabs were fighting Israel for the rights of Palestine, Iran was leaning towards Israel. On the other hand, Israel also began to realize that it needed non-Arab friends among its hostile neighbors. In line with this, Israel's first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, formulated a strategic policy known as the Peripheral Doctrine. He stated that since Israel is a small state surrounded on all sides by Arab countries, we should make friends with the neighbors of our enemies. And on this map, the largest and most important neighbor of the Arabs was Iran. This was the very Israeli policy that established the relationship between Iran and Israel. The first foundation of friendship was laid. The very first and biggest result of Ben-Gurion's policy appeared in 1950. After Turkey, Iran was the second Muslim-majority country to recognize Israel de facto. Through the Swiss government, Iran sent Israel a formal letter not only accepting them but also offering friendship. This was not an official de jure recognition, but rather a secret agreement that everyone knew about. In other words, an open secret. The world thought that Iran did not recognize Israel, but in reality, the Shah of Iran allowed Israel to open a mission in Tehran. A large Israeli office was opened in Tehran, which functioned just like an embassy, but there was neither an Israeli flag outside nor the word embassy written anywhere. People knew that this was Israel's mission, but officially, it was commonly referred to as the Israeli Trade Office or sometimes by other names. Before we find out how much and on which occasions Iran and Israel supported each other, let's first understand why the Shah of Iran, despite leading a Muslim country, chose to support Israel. There were three main reasons behind this. The Shah wanted to strengthen his monarchy and turn Iran into a modern, powerful, industrial state. For this, he needed advanced technology and expertise which Israel could provide. Secondly, the Shah of Iran was afraid of Egypt's Gamal Abdel Nasser, who was championing Arab nationalism. The Shah felt that Iran could be Nasser's next target, and this fear compelled him to lean towards Israel. But the most important reason was the Shah of Iran's close relationship with America. In 1953, Iran's Prime Minister Mossadegh. There had been attempts to reduce the Shah's powers, but it was the United States through the CIA that helped the Shah and saved his throne. After this incident, he was, in a way, indebted to the United States and did not want to refuse any of their requests. The United States also wanted Iran and Israel to remain friends with each other. The Shah was so afraid of his own people that he even created a secret police force called Savak. The job of this police was to catch or eliminate those who spoke against the Shah, and you might be surprised to know that Israel assigned Mossad agents to train Savak. It was Mossad that trained Savak on how to keep surveillance on people and how to conduct interrogations. Intelligence sharing between Savak and Mossad was a routine practice. These two agencies worked together to target communism and Arab militant groups. Even Iranian Air Force pilots used to receive training in Israel. Israel sold advanced weapons and technology to Iran that the Arab world at that time couldn't even imagine. Both countries worked together on missile technology and even signed agreements to research nuclear weapons technology. The Iranian nuclear program, which America and Israel are now so concerned about, was actually started with their help. In 1957, American President Eisenhower launched a campaign called Atoms for Peace. The purpose of this was to provide nuclear technology to American allies around the world so they could generate cheap electricity. America gave Iran its first nuclear research reactor in 1967, which was installed at Tehran University. Interestingly, at that time it was Israel that trained Iran's nuclear scientists, the same ones who today, those who are now being systematically eliminated one by one. The friendship between Iran and Israel did not depend solely on a military alliance. In fact, the economy was the strongest aspect of this relationship. Israel needed oil, and the Arab countries had boycotted supplying them with oil. Iran, which was a friend of Israel, had plenty of oil, but there was no route to deliver that oil to Israel. If oil containers tried to travel from the Persian Gulf to the Red Sea and then through the Suez Canal to reach Israel, the problem was that the Suez Canal was under Egypt's control, which sided with the Arabs, and Egypt would never allow this to happen under any circumstances. If we look at the land route, Iraq, Syria and Jordan lie between Iran and Israel, and these are also Arab countries, meaning there was simply no way left to deliver oil from Iran to Israel, but to honor this friendship in a special way. As you can see, Israel also has a port on the Gulf of Aqaba called Eilat. From here, a pipeline started and extended all the way to Israel's Ashkelon port, and this project was named the Eilat-Ashkelon Pipeline. This was done specifically so that Iranian oil tankers could leave Karg Island, enter the Red Sea, bypass the Suez Canal, and then offload their oil at Israel's Eilat port on the Gulf of Aqaba. Through this secret pipeline, not only did Israel get access to oil, but Iran also got the opportunity to sell its oil to Europe, because Israel's Ashkelon port is on the Mediterranean Sea, from where oil could reach Europe without any obstacles like the Suez Canal. This was not just a pipeline, but a symbol of brotherhood between Iran and Israel. Iran owned 50% of it, and Israel owned the other 50%. Both invested money together so that money was invested so that the oil monopoly of Arab countries could be undermined. This friendship was so strong that meetings between the Shah of Iran and Israeli Prime Minister Ben Gurion used to take place in secret. When Ben Gurion landed at Tehran airport, he would wear a wig so that he could avoid being recognized by the media. In the 1970s, the Tehran and Israel Trade Mission, which was actually an embassy, was fully active. Israeli engineers, doctors, and military advisors were present there. Israel also taught Iranian farmers modern irrigation and technology, and there were direct flights between the two countries. This period is considered the golden era of friendship between the two countries. During this time, the Shah of Iran hosted the world's most expensive and grandest birthday party. October 26, 1971 was the Shah's 52nd birthday and the anniversary of the Persian Empire. It was the day of the 2500-year anniversary. For this party, an entire mini-city was built in the desert. A special runway was also constructed, which at that time cost more than $100 million. Kings, queens, presidents, and prime ministers from all over the world were invited to this event. Food was flown in by private jets from the famous Maxim's restaurant in Paris. The Israeli prime minister was not invited to this party so that their friendship would remain secret. Although Israeli leaders were not on stage, Israel's secret agency Mossad worked together with the Shah's security team to devise the entire security plan for the party to prevent any possible attack. Even though the Israeli prime minister was not invited to the party, it did not affect the friendship between the two at all. For the next few years, this friendship continued in the same way. But eventually, the day arrived when the friendship between Iran and Israel's friendship turned into enmity. In the 1979 revolution, Ayatollah Khomeini overthrew the Shah of Iran and turned Iran into an Islamic republic. As soon as Khomeini came to power, he declared that Israel was the enemy of Islam and the Shah was a traitor. A few weeks later, the Israeli trade mission was attacked and the Palestinian flag was hoisted there. On the same day, Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat arrived in Tehran and Khomeini announced that this was no longer the Israeli embassy but now the embassy of Palestine. This was the moment when the story of Iran-Israel friendship ended, but for now, it was not yet buried. After the Islamic Revolution, the story takes an interesting turn. A year later, when the Iran-Iraq war began, Iran found itself in desperate need of weapons, and once again, necessity brought the two sides together. At this point, they provided assistance and secretly supplied them with weapons. This war, led by Khomeini, continued for 8 years and weapons kept coming from Israel. Israel's benefit in this was that by supplying weapons to Iran, it wanted to weaken its neighboring Arab country, Iraq. After the Islamic Revolution, Iran also abolished all the things from the old Shah's era, such as the Savak police, the oil pipeline, and the Israeli trade mission. But one thing that Israel and America had gifted to Iran, Khomeini reopened, and that was Iran's nuclear program. In 1990, when the Iran-Iraq war ended, Israel realized that the threat was no longer Iraq, but rather Iran's nuclear program, which was now in the hands of the Islamic revolutionists. It was from this period that a shadow war began between the two, which continues to this day, and this was the point when Iran became Israel's. The ship was completely buried. We hope you will also like and share this Zim TV video wholeheartedly. Thank you so much for your loving comments. See you in the next amazing video.